Welcome back. My name is Dohyoung Jeong, and I'm a member of the branded marketing team. And I'm really excited today because I have the opportunity to walk through with you our latest SSD lineup that we believe is going to set new standards for the industry, but also new expectations within our consumers. But let me begin with some context, right, about our journey so far, what our focus has been, and to share some of our achievements together. So Samsung has been manufacturing SSDs for almost 10 years, but predominantly for the OEM industry market. Right? Our retail branded SSD was only first launched at the end of 2010, so put that in context. The last World Cup in South Africa, when we ended that, was when we had our first lineup launched. Now, around 3.5 years later, in 2014, again, we have our Brazilian World Cup. We've really come a long way since, right? But I'm talking about the World Cup. We have all the flags up here. Where's our French team? Do you have our French press here today? Raise your hands. Oh, nice, well done. Good job. How about the Germany team? Do you have very close. Ooh, very close. Okay, so we're now available in 53 countries. And I think if we look a little bit hard enough, it's not too difficult to find a Samsung SSD anywhere around the world. And luckily enough, we can say that in an overwhelming majority of these regions, Samsung is the #1 SSD brand. So, but if what would that look like if we quantify? We've now shipped more than 12 million units of SSDs since 2010, so end of 2010. Just to clarify, this excludes all pre-installed SSDs that we've shipped to our OEM partners, right? So we're talking about packaged retail SSDs that's aimed primarily for the upgrade market. We're proud of our achievements, but at the same time, because SSD is still a relatively new product, our goal has to be more than about just being #1. Our mission has to be bolder. We need to take some responsibility for the future success of this entire category. Because surely, we've heard some presentations before, we're living in an age of limitless content creation and consumption. And the question for us has always been, what role do we have to play in making that lifestyle a little bit more easier and a little bit more pleasant? So naturally, that's where our focus has been, right? Technology leadership, as in having the best product in terms of performance and reliability. Consumer engagement, this is really investing in the market by educating the consumers in terms of SSD benefits, and also maximizing the value of our product through design. We can't forget user-centric scenarios, coming up with new and innovative ways to creating the best user experience possible. So let me dive into them one by one and elaborate. Technology leadership. Right? Samsung is still the only SSD manufacturer that has the technology and the capability for end-to-end integration in all its components. We are the world's #1 DRAM manufacturer. We are the world's #1 NAND flash manufacturer. We have our own in-house controller along with our own firmware architecture. So, putting all these combined really allows us to come up with one of the most reliable and seamlessly working products. Just as an example, 2 years ago, we launched the first SSD ever to use 3-bit NAND. Now, I think it's fair to say that at the time, there was a little bit of skepticism in the market, but now the 840 EVO series continues to be the most successful consumer SSDs ever to be launched. Now, because SSD is still a relatively young product, right? We've always felt the responsibility to setting the standards of how people will interact with an SSD for the first time. Our investments into education and outreach programs all fall under the umbrella of building awareness for the entire category. Our social networking Facebook page now has over 350,000 followers. Now, this is something that we're really pleasantly surprised by, because when we look at the discussions that take place on the site, it's really, our fans take it upon themselves to spread the good word of the SSD for us, and it's been really pleasant for us. So I'd like to take a moment and let's all see together some of these efforts that we've combined. Design. One of our philosophies has always been about the best engineering in and out of the product, because it really doesn't matter to us that SSDs are categorized as a component, because design does have a role to play in the consumer experience, right? And we need to have the integrity to fulfilling that experience. We've used premium materials throughout the entire lineup since our conception of the 470 series, which we think really adds a sense of quality and reliability. Being able to be compatible with slim ultrabooks now is really compulsory. It's a must in the industry today. We first introduced our diamond cut concept design with our 830 series. That was 3 years back. And so 3 years back, at the end of 2011. And I don't know if you've noticed, but at the end of 2012, I won't say who, but a mobile phone manufacturer, Phone 5, came up with the same concept. Right? I'm not saying anything, it's just facts. Right? Good designers love diamond cut designs. The square, for us, has been a consistent and distinct identity for our SSDs that really separates us from other competitors in the market. User-centric solutions, right? Providing the right tools, especially for the first-time users, is going to leave a long-time impression. And we think with solutions like the Samsung migration tool, it's an easy 3-step that helps you migrate all your existing data from your current system onto your new drive. The Samsung Magician, is going to help you optimize your system for the best performance as possible. Even still, it's more often than not that people are uncomfortable opening up their own PC and upgrading it. But I think, through some of our efforts, we will continue to refine this process for the best consumer experience that we can offer. Now, we talked about the 4 points of our focus, and it's only when we combine all these elements together that we get a product like the 840 series that's in the market today. That's going to have the power to create new waves in the market upon its release. So let's look at the market, right? Let's do a quick fact check. This represents the entire SSD aftermarket sales trend in terms of units. For the US, Germany, Italy, France, and UK combined, so that's 5 countries combined on a monthly scale. You'll see that up until most of 2011, there was very little growth, right, in that, until the launch of our 830 series. And then you start to see some upward trend. I think we can clearly see that all our products have served as inflection points in the market to ramp it up to the next level, to bring in a new set of consumers. Now, we're proud of what we've been able to achieve this far. Right? but time and technology, as we know, waits for no one. So where do we go from here? Now, how are we going to take things to the next level? What is our next hero product going to be capable of? And what new doors of possibilities will it open up? So the 850 Pro will represent a new breed of performance in SSDs. It will also be the first consumer-grade SSD to be powered by 3D VNAND technology, the first consumer-grade SSD. So let's start off by looking at the hood with a head-to-head comparison with our previous generation, the 840 Pro. Most importantly, the core of the product, which is the NAND flash memory, will be upgraded from a 1X NAND, 1X class NAND to the newest 32-layer 3D VNAND. The controller will be also upgraded from the MDX to the MEX, which has already proven itself in the market through the 840 EVO. DRAM will also be doubled up to 1 GB for the larger drives, and as you can see, we will be expanding our capacities to include the ever-popular 1 TB drive. So, why is the 850 Pro important and who is it for? It's going to bring the ultimate performance. Our goal is to take the SATA 6 interface to its maximum limits. Unquestionable reliability. We're going to put to rest any doubt or questions about endurance with this SSD. And of course, more and more power efficiency management, which is all going to be made possible through VNAND technology. And this is all going to be for our PC client customers. Let's go through them one by one. The 850 Pro will be providing the ultimate performance. This means the maximum sequential read and write speeds, together with the industry's best random IOPS performance for all QDEP operations. So let's look at the numbers. This is a comparison with our previous 840 Pro, as you can see, which was a very fast product. If you take a look at the right, on the left, the read speeds, we have all maxed out at 550 megabytes per second. The write speed, that's on my left, is going to be consistent with the previous generation for the 256 and 512 gigabytes, but we do see a 20% lift for the 128, which we think is going to bring much more balance, right, to the entire lineup. IOPS performance. The gray lines represent the 840 Pro, and as you can see that across all QDEPs, operations, there is an improvement on the random read and write. Right? It's going to give you that more snappy feeling that you get when you're using an SSD. So when we take all these improvements and we saw how it translated into a simulated benchmark, for the PC Mark 7, as you can see, the average score has increased by 10% over our previous generation. For the PC Mark Vantage, the improvement is less so, but still, across all capacities, you do see an improvement in real-life performance. This is a big question. How about endurance and reliability? Since the conception of NAND flash memory, endurance has always been a subject of debate. Right? And with the 850 Pro straight off, you're going to guarantee double the level of endurance over regular NAND. Now I kind of make that sound like regular NAND isn't that reliable, but we all know that that's not the case. And luckily for us, when it comes to SSDs, we have a wide base of enthusiast users who know what they're doing when it comes to IT products. So it's not too difficult to find in tech sites and forums, some are willing to test these products on their own and push it to the utmost limits. So our 830 series based on the 27 nanometer 2-bit MLC was part of this test. And as you can see, this is not the end of the test. This is as far as we could find it. One of the users wrote up to 1 petabyte of data. So that's 1,000 terabytes. And if we divide that up into 40 gigabytes per day, it's going to get you 70 years. We also found results for the 840 Pro, which is based on the 19 nanometer 2-bit MLC. And as you can see, to date, they have written up to 3 petabytes of data. So if you take the same variable, divided by 40, you get 200 years. So what about our newest 3D NAND product, the 850 Pro? Now we were curious ourselves, and we started a test of our own. And I think a little bit later on, there's a live demonstration outside that we can see. Sorry, let's go. Okay. All right, we got it. Okay, so, sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is a test done in one of our labs just yesterday. So you can see this is the CDI crystal Bismarck information smart screen, and at the bottom right you'll see the data is continued to be written on. This is the 850 Pro, the 128 gigabyte that is continued to be written. This is just live feed from yesterday. And what are the results? So far, I've heard that the drive, because it's very new, only started the testing about 2.5 months ago, and up until now, right, from 2.5 months, we've written up to 1.3 petabytes, so that's a little over 1,300 terabytes. And really, there's a live demonstration outside that you'll see. It's done with the 24-layer NAND, 24-layer VNAND, and that has already gone up to 6.7 petabytes. So when the results come in on this, we'll gladly let you know, but it's going to take some time, a couple of months, a year, but we're very curious to find out too. What about efficient power management, right? Power efficiency is another area we've improved on for both idle and active modes. Now, I'm going to presume that most of us here today know the difference between idle and active, and go straight into the consumer user scenario. You'll see that an average consumer user, while they're using the computers, the SSD, 90% of the time, is in its idle state, right? Because most likely, because the work being done will involve, spreadsheets, PowerPoints, documents which is really being fed through the DRAM. So naturally, this is where a lot of our focus has been as well. And you can see the results. The previous 840 was already an impressive product. And for the 850 Pro, it is on par or below those figures. But we know the 850 Pro, really targets the professional users, such as designers or architects, where the load of content creation is becoming heavier and heavier. Not to forget that 4K video is just around the corner. So, with all this added up, we feel that the active state is becoming more important for these users. So we're estimated up to about 30% of the time for professional users, the PC will be in an active state. So what kind of improvements have we made in this area? You'll see it's a little bit more significant than in idle mode. So the 128 from about 10% improvement to the 256 gigabytes, almost a 40% improvement. Right, so we're adapting to the times. We know that content creation is becoming larger and larger. The 850 Pro is now going to be fully compatible with the Ultrabooks deep sleep mode, device sleep mode that require a standard of 2 milliwatts. So it's going to be fully compatible with the Ultrabooks sleep mode. So we've looked at some improvements that was able through some hardware upgrades. So what about the software solutions? I think this was a big part of our presentation last year. So what kind of improvements have we made in this area? All Samsung SSDs will now be compatible with a full set of data security solutions, from Class 0 hardware level encryption, TCG OPAL 2.0 for our corporate customers, and of course the Microsoft BitLocker support. So all Samsung SSDs that will be shipped, I guess, from our previous 840 EVO will have all three of these data security features with them. How about Rapid Mode? If you remember, Rapid Mode was released last year that utilizes the system's idle DRAM as cache storage, and it actually had a hard limit, ceiling usage of 1 gigabyte PC memory. With the Rapid 2.0, that has now been scaled up to 25% of the system's total memory. Because we're now taking into account the fact that 8 gigabytes is becoming more of the standard. Right? So if you take that example, 8 gigabytes DRAM, Rapid Mode will now utilize up to 25%, so which is 2 gigabytes for its cache requirements, which is double than what it was before. And as you can see, the results also, compared to the previous generation, is almost double that. So we looked at some features for the 850 Pro. Now, let's pause there for a moment because I want to slightly deviate into a new segue and talk a little bit more about data centers, because the presentations that you saw previously, talked about a lot of opportunity in terms of data explosions and what is the market that we're seeing out there. We at Samsung already possess many lineups to meet those needs, but primarily for large data centers providers, who need the special customized solutions. In contrast, smaller SMB businesses and enterprises are left with little option. And that's the area we're focusing to expand our Threadripper memory lineups into to meet those needs. Right? The 845 DC EVO and the 845 DC Pro, which are two different lineups. Now we're already quietly launching into the market, and both will address different applications with distinct requirements. The DC EVO will be the first 3-bit MLC-based data center product that's designed for read-centric systems, while the DC Pro, which is based on the 24-layer 3D VNAND technology, will be for those high write-centric applications that require that high endurance. So if you look at the entire server landscape, right, let's see where each of these products is best suited for. We know there are many types of data center systems, serving different purposes. But because we're talking about SMB segment, let's take away the storage and archive servers, where speed is going to be less of a requirement. So narrowing it down, the remaining 4 types of server farms are what we expect to find for small to medium-sized businesses. Starting on the left, you'll see the content delivery network theoretically sits closest to the everyday users, feeding them the content directly from YouTube and so forth, while the application and database servers will be engaged in more heavy processes for both read and write. And naturally, that's why we align the 840 DC Evo to be read-centric, while the 845 DC Pro should be more appropriate for the applications and database servers. Now, we also know that the key to success for the PC client market differs from the data center market. While peak performance and ease of use may be the key focus for the average PC client, data centers require sustained performance, endurance, latency, or quality of service, just to name a few. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples in detail. This is looking at our own testing of sustained random write performance over a period of 10 hours. So this is our PC client-based SSD, the 840 Pro, and already it's coming up with some really respectable results. So let's see about the 845 DC Evo, which is, again, based on 3-bit MLC and shows better results compared to a competitor that targets the same market. The improvement is more significant with the 845 DC Pro. Both these products, both our DC products, will be providing the best-in-class sustained performance. Let's translate that into a spectator. The random IOPS represented here are based on sustained and not peak performances. Note how the DC Pro provides impressive numbers for both read and write, while the Evo is more centric for the read. Another very important factor in data centers are QoS, or what we call quality of service. Now, this basically represents how fast the SSD is able to correctly digest data commands, which ultimately translates into how stable the server environment is going to be. It's a lot of numbers, but just to take an example, the DC Pro at the queue depth of 32 is able to carry out 99.9% of its random write command in a period of 5 milliseconds. Now, in order to talk about reliability, we could go into many factors such as power loss protection, dynamic thermal guard, and so forth. But we thought, showing you the warranty could sum that up pretty nicely. First thing to note is that the endurance levels has been set according to the capacities offering that's offered up. So to almost 15,000 terabytes on the 800 gigabyte DC Pro. And for both the DC Pro and the DC Evo, the warranty period will be up to 5 years. As you can see there, DWPD, drive writes per day. For, just to take an example, the 800 gigabytes, we're saying that in a day, you can write that up to 10 times its capacity. So when will each of these products be available? I think I said before, right? The 845 DC Evo is already available in the market today, while the 845 DC Pro will be available starting this month. So we've introduced to you 3 products today. The 850 Pro for the client PC, which is based on the 3D VNAND, and the 845 DC Pro, also based on the 3D VNAND, but for the data centers, and the 845 DC Evo, based on 3-bit MLC NAND, also for the data centers, but more for read-centric applications. So I want to go back to the 850 Pro in a little bit more detail about the launch plan. The 850 Pro will be available from the 21st of July, so that's 3 weeks from now. What this means is that our partners and our channels will be stocked with the 850 Pro in inventory. The capacities that we are offering up, again, going through it 128 all the way to the 1 terabyte drive, will be available. This is a look at our packaging. It's going to be consistent with our previous generations, the 840 Pro and the 840 Evo. As you can see, it's going to come in a basic set drive. Let's look at pricing. So starting with the 128 gigabytes, it is at $129.99. So this is based on the USA market, MSRP, which excludes VAT, right? This is the guideline. The 256 will be available at $199, the 512 at $399, and the 1 terabyte at $699. The 850 Pro will come with a 10-year limited warranty. Right? This is going to be the top of its class, the 10-year warranty. But more importantly, we're going to give it 150 terabytes. So that's 40 gigabytes per day for 10 years. That's how long it might be. We're going to guarantee that. It's going to be the industry's leading warranty. This is our key messaging for the 850 Pro. This is what we want our consumers to see. It's the ultimate SSD that provides unbeatable performance with guaranteed long-term reliability. And I think this sums up our product pretty nicely. So I think this product is a giant leap forward. I think this is what this picture is trying to represent, right? It's a giant leap forward for SSD technology, but more importantly, it's our first step in a series of what's yet to come.